Well, hello there, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It is my greatest pleasure to introduce our guest, Dr. Doug Lisle. In case you don't know who I am, I'm Chef AJ, and this is Healthy Living Live. Dr. Lisle is not only the co-author of The Pleasure Trap, but he's the psychologist at both the True North Health Center and the McDougall Live-In Program. Both are in Santa Rosa, California. And he is the star of the Beat Your Genes podcast, which airs live every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Pacific time on iTunes and Blog Talk Radio. I believe it's now also on Spotify. And he has a wonderful website, which I'll be putting up on the screen in a moment, esteemdynamics.com. Thank you so much, Dr. Lisle. This is our last interview this year.
Oh my goodness, AJ. All right. Well, we'll have some fun.
All right. So you guys make sure you share these interviews right now in real time so that Dr. Lisle will come back next year and grace us with his presence. We have so many questions that have been submitted, so I'll start with one from Stacy. Dr. Lisle, as you know, the dietary style we recommend in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program is pretty much the same as the McDougall Maximum Weight Loss Program and the True North Health Promoting Diet. It's an ad libitum diet style of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes, where we don't eat sugar, oil, flour, alcohol, salt, and we don't eat animal products, and we either eliminate or minimize the high-fat plant foods like nuts, seeds, and avocado. So Stacy asks, does everyone lose weight eating ad libitum, left of the red line, like a good animal? And if one does need to restrict or moderate certain of those foods, how do you do it without creating unnecessary neurosis around food? Take it away, Dr. Lisle.
Yes, I think that, let's see if I can explain. Her question would be, would everybody lose weight? No, not if you're actually already underweight, you wouldn't lose weight. If you're underweight and you were to eat ad libitum on these foods, then you would gain weight because your hunger drive would be driving you to get to a normal optimum weight for your health. So what's useful to understand is a concept called equilibrium, and that is that just as if you think of it, equilibrium is like you've got a boat and you've got a bunch of, I don't know, barrels of rice that you're going to be putting on this boat, and it's a medium-sized boat. It can be sailed by 3 or 4 people, so it's a pretty big boat, but not a huge boat. And you cart these things on there, and it's in a very still lake. But as you put them onto the boat starts to bounce up and down, and then after it bounces up and down for a while, now it's riding a little bit lower in the water. Okay, and then you take them off of there later, and then it rides a little bit higher in the water. So this is you're looking at equilibrium of these forces of physics as they move the boat up and down in the water. The same thing is going to be true of your weight. Your weight is going to move up and down depending upon how much rice is in the boat, and in this case, and it's going to bounce around while you're in the process. And then you will reach what's going to be called equilibrium. So for example, let's suppose that you decided that you thought it was a good idea to eat, a couple ounces of nuts a day. So you're going to eat a couple of ounces of nuts, you're going to add them to your present diet. Now let's look and see what we think would happen. What would happen is that the nuts are 2,500 calories a pound. And what's going to happen is you will likely replace some other food that you're eating. Because the nuts are 2,500 calories a pound, and let's suppose the rest of your diet has been on average, say, 500 calories a pound. It's been a diversity of, healthy foods, but it's been generally around 500 calories a pound. So if we add a couple of ounces of nuts, what's going to happen is that we're probably going to displace some amount of the existing food. But probably what will happen, because the nuts are so rich, is that we now will be eating a slightly greater amount of calories because of the increased calorie density of the diet. Now you might think that it would be a perfect replacement. So let's suppose if we put in 100 calories of nuts, we would subtract 100 calories of salad. But that probably won't happen, because a couple of ounces of nuts probably won't displace a pound of salad when it comes to satiety. It will displace some of it, but it won't displace all of it. So what's going to happen is over time, you might say, okay, well, let's see what happens. We eat these nuts for a month, and it turns out we get on the scale, and we don't appear to be any heavier. So have we gained any weight? We don't know because we haven't reached equilibrium yet. So it's so slow, we may have gained 3 or 4 ounces of fat over the last month, but we won't see it in 30 days. This is why people will say that there's no evidence that nuts causes weight gain. Problem is they don't watch it for long enough. They only watch it for 2 weeks. And as a result, you haven't yet reached equilibrium. But what we would see, though, over time is that an average higher calorie density is going to lead you to a higher equilibrium, and a lower calorie density is going to lead you to a lower equilibrium. So if we continue to eat these nuts all year long, when we come back a year from now, if we kept everything exactly the same, then probably a year from now, or maybe 6 months from now, you're 1.5 pounds heavier. And then you continue to eat these nuts for the next 3 years, and you don't gain any weight at that point. What happened was at the 6-month mark, you finally reached equilibrium, and now we stay there forever. So in other words, what happens is that your weight will remain stable once your behavior is at equilibrium, and obviously your biology more or less stays at equilibrium over time. So what people will do is they have many superstitions about weight loss and weight gain, and one of the things that they do is they try to lose a bunch of weight through quasi-starvation practices of some kind, and they get down 30 pounds, and then they want to defend it. Okay, well, you are headed to some equilibrium on that semi-starvation process. You weren't headed to an equilibrium when you would eat to satiety. So as far as I'm concerned, that's a worthless way to try to lose weight. But the way you want to lose weight is you want to eat a diet that is health supporting, and that diet, if you're trying to lose weight, that diet should be lower in calorie density than the diet you have been on. The diet that you've been on puts you at a higher equilibrium than you wanted. And so now we instead of restricting the amount of food you eat by consciously overriding your hunger drive, which to me is a ludicrous long-term strategy, it's a good strategy if you've got 3 weeks, try to lose a bunch of weight to squeeze into some dress for your daughter's wedding. Fair enough. I don't really care. You might water fast for 14 days if that's what it is that you want to do. But instead, what I would like you to do long-term is to eat a diet that you're comfortable with, where we have shifted the average calorie density of your daily fare. And then we sit back and we watch where you finally hit equilibrium. So I tell a story where I had a woman who was 5'4" and 338 pounds that came to me and would not do anything about changing her diet for many months. And after a year, I finally got her to eat oatmeal in the morning instead of bacon and eggs. And over the next year, she dropped about 60 pounds. She got down in the 270s. And she reached equilibrium there. She didn't lose any more. So the magic ended after a year. And there she sat, fine, completely happy with that. And I couldn't, knowing full well that had I been able to encourage her to eat a salad before her dinner, there's no telling what would have happened. We would have again been in a dynamic process headed towards a new equilibrium that might have landed us at 204. I don't know where it would have landed. I have no idea. But I couldn't do it, and that was as good a victory as we could get. But that's the concept of equilibrium, weight loss, and weight gain, and how it all works with respect to calorie density.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have a couple of questions about the environment. The first one is from Beth, who says, how can we work on not being agitated, annoyed, or edgy when people around us munch all day long on junk food? She's talking about her workplace, which is very close quarters. She says it's really hard for her.
Interesting. I actually can't tell you. I haven't been in those circumstances, but I can imagine if they're crunching at a bunch of Fritos 6 feet away, this is probably not going to be an easy thing to be around. If you can, put earplugs in your ears so that you don't have to hear the sound. and certainly have healthy food on your own desk. If they're allowed to eat Fritos at their desk, then you're allowed to eat cherries at your desk, I am sure. So yeah, you need to surround yourself with healthy options to the point where when it occurs to you to eat, you've got something within arm's reach that is health promoting, that is decent. But yes, I can obviously, if you're an alcoholic and you're tending bar, this is going to be an extremely difficult process. And if you struggle with these things, which I would, it wouldn't be easy for me to be sitting in the middle of 5 people that were eating a bunch of junk food. It would be tempting if they laid out a bunch of donuts all over the place every time I moved my eyeballs on watching somebody eat a donut. Wouldn't be an easy thing to deal with. So do what you can, and defend your senses as best you can by having your olfactory and taste senses exposed mostly to your own healthy food as much as possible. And if they're munching and munching, keep your eyes on your computer. Turn your desk away from them, and put earplugs in your ear if you can. Try to defend yourself from the sensory process, which is, of course, a ridiculous thing to have to be putting up with. Sorry about that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It must be very difficult for those that are not self-employed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Co-workers, they're the worst. So similarly, Leah has a question. She says, what do we do if we are in an environment we can't control, like sitting in a restaurant with our family on vacation? She brings her own food and she might not even be hungry, but with temptations all around her, what does she do to stop herself from eating something unhealthy in that kind of situation?
Well, there's many ways to look at this. So several different perspectives come to mind. First of all, I can eat in any restaurant. So there's almost no restaurant that I can't eat in. I wouldn't have to bring my own food. So I would just make good choices in that restaurant. And therefore, I wouldn't be the odd man out. The waitress might have to be hassled a little bit to get things just right. And I only expect them at most to get 3 things right out of 5 things that I'm telling them. And then the other 2 things are either acceptable enough or they get sent back. But the point is that we don't need to seek perfection here. What we need to do is seek excellence. There's a difference. And so you're not going to be at your family's restaurant table very often. How many times are we talking about? If this is a weekly event in your life, then we're going to have to get shitty about it, and we're going to have to insist that things be done a little bit differently. They're going to have to get used to going to the restaurant that you're comfortable with. So there's something specific there that you can eat, and you're going to have to educate the kitchen staff how it is that you want it. So, if we're going to do this 50 times a year, that's one thing. If we're going to do it 3 times a year, that's something else. So 3 times a year, it's not going to hurt us any to make the best choices available, be slightly pushy about it, but not otherwise worry about this. Folks, this is not heroin. You want heroin addicts that are on the verge of disaster just because you have one thing in a restaurant that has a little bit of salt or a little bit of oil on it. This isn't going to kill you, and it's not going to cause any disaster. There's no reason for us to be so tremendously anxious or to be so concerned. This is the equivalent of a straight A student worried about missing 1 point on a test when 90 is an A, and they're going to wind up with 99 out of 100. There's no worries about this. If you miss a question, you miss a question, and the reason you missed the question was that you were not willing to spend an extra 16 hours studying for this exam, when you'd already spent 16 hours studying for the exam, and you knew damn well you knew the thing extremely well, and whatever you're going to get on that exam was good enough. So you are in control of probably 99% of all of the meals that you're ever going to eat. You have exquisite control over these things. So you're going to eat about 1,000 meals a year, and there's 10 meals where you're going to be cornered into a situation where, you know, mediocre is the best you can do, or so-so is the best you can do. No problem. If it's, quite frankly, if it's 50 meals a year, if it's 4 of them a month or once of them a week, then we can also do a decent job at whatever it is and call it good. And we still have an outstanding record. So part of this comes from an unrealistic expectation and about how good we have to be in order to get great results. And the answer is we have to be good, but we don't have to be perfect. And so keep that in mind.
Thank you. So Liz wrote in a question, but then Anne, who's watching live, posted something similar. Liz says, is it possible to get over being upset with myself for having food addictions? And then Anne writes live, I had my first slip in 10 months of plant-based and I feel awful physically and mentally. How can I stop beating myself up? They're both similar in my opinion.
Yes, they are similar. And this is the land of what I call HCNC, hyperconscientious nutcases. Okay, that's what the plant-based world attracts such individuals. And Chef AJ and True North also attracts them. You're like, this is like concentrating something. Like we already start out in the plant-based world with the average member of the plant-based world is a very high conscientious individual. And then we move from those that are worried about the animals and kind of worried about their health and go into Whole Foods and get some soy hot dogs. We move from those, over to John McDougall. And by the time we get to John McDougall or Engine 2, we are pretty conscientious. Okay, anybody that's walking that road is now, this is a very high conscientious vegan. So this is now with a lot of self-discipline and anxiety over not being excellent. And then we move from there over to True North and Chef AJ. Okay, it's like all right. We've now first we moved ourselves out of the normal people society to being a vegan, health conscious vegan. Then we moved from being a health conscious vegan to be a McDougall. Then we moved from a McDougall to be a TNH Chef AJ. Look what we've got. What we've got is somebody who does 10 months perfect and then has some little slip. Well, in 10 months is 300 days times 3 meals. That means 1,000 questions have been gotten perfect on the exam. And now we missed one. Let's not worry about this, folks. Okay? How do you stop beating yourself up? You stop beating yourself up from understanding that the difference between being very good and being perfect is immaterial. Okay, it is of no consequences. This let me explain how it is to look at this. This is the concept of what I call functional equivalence. So let's suppose that in principle we were able to talk to God, and God could actually behind his or her omniscience, that creature could tell us exactly how many minutes or seconds of sunshine would be optimal for us today. And so I consulted my God meter, and my God meter told me that I should go out in my backyard between 1:23 in the afternoon and 1:47 in the afternoon, wearing my boxer shorts, okay, and then lie exactly one half on the back and then one half on the front of my chaise lounge. That's what I should do, and then I should go back in the house, because that would be the optimal amount of sunshine. And if I had 1 second more, then that was actually a little bit too much. And I statistically increased my likelihood of some kind of skin cancer that would arrive 38 years from now. I increased the likelihood from 0.0017 to 0.0018 as a result of staying out there an extra 5 seconds. This is ludicrous, okay? Since the risk of me being killed in the parking lot at the store as I go in to get a sack of vegetables is massively higher than any possible difference that the sunshine difference could make. The concept of how much sunshine I have, it's ludicrous within boundary lines to be worried about the differences. That whether I get 23 minutes or 47 minutes or 13 minutes or an hour is functionally equivalent. For all intents and purposes, it makes no difference at all. Okay? So the same thing is true of diets. For all intents and purposes, a McDougall diet and a True North diet are functionally equivalent. Now, that may not be true for a few individuals. So there may be a few individuals out there that on a McDougall diet at 100 milligrams of sodium a day, they're in kidney failure. They're on dialysis, or they're almost to dialysis. They're down to 27% of kidney function, and their doctor's warning them and telling them, you're going to have to go on dialysis next year, probably. Well, now, is there a difference between the McDougall program and the True North program, or Chef AJ's program? Yes, there is. For that one specific individual, that difference might be the difference, okay? For the other 99.9% of people out there, there is no difference. So this is how it is that we want to look at things. Functional equivalence. And so we would expect we can look at the world and see there is quite a difference between being a conventional eater and being a more healthy eater. There's a difference between someone who eats some salad and potatoes and rice with their salmon and their wine than somebody who doesn't. Okay, those are significant differences. There are significant differences between people who eat very healthy the way we all eat and people that don't. Yes, there are. Are there differences between somebody who has 10 meals a year that are not ideal versus someone who does? No, there's no functional equivalent whatsoever between those two individuals. So keep in mind that you have what's called stress tolerance. So my ability to handle the sun on 23 minutes versus 37 minutes, my ability to handle that extra 14 minutes is easily within the stress tolerance of the system. And so is your ability to handle food that is not ideal. Remember, keep in mind that even though it seems like people that eat like Alan and AJ ought to at least live 3 times longer than everybody else, it seems reasonable that they should. Given what you watch people eat, you're like, well, surely if that guy's going to live to 80, AJ ought to live to 240. Surely. It seems only just that would be true because she's doing so much better job than everybody else. And the truth of the matter is, no, the difference might be 10%. Okay, so it's like, whoa, that's because the human body can spin garbage into gold. It is the ultimate Rumpelstiltskin machine. Okay, so people literally put garbage in it, and this incredible body is able to pull these things apart and put it together and have these people do okay. Now, they don't do very well. If you put enough garbage in for long enough, pretty soon you start looking like garbage. That is true, okay? But you don't have to worry about tiny perturbations away from perfection. Please don't worry about this. This is a derivative of a distortion of the threats that are associated with slight variations of perfection. This makes no sense whatsoever at all to be worried about these things. Do a good job. The only real worry that we have is that if you are highly reactive to some genre of food, and this can derail you in a major way. If you are behind some kind of food stuff, the equivalent of an alcoholic, you just love olive oil, and like God, if you taste something doused in olive oil, we're gonna set off a chain reaction that you're gonna gain 30 pounds in the next year because you're gonna start dousing everything in olive oil. If that is true, then respect that about yourself. But if that is not true, and all you're worried about is that you are disturbed, that you veered from perfection, for goodness sakes, let's realize that perfection is not a goal. We have no interest in this, okay? We're not out here to win an award at the end of our lives with a ribbon that says we didn't get out of line 1 inch on any of our health behavior for the last 37 years. That's not what we're here to do. We're not here to impress anybody. We are here to get results. This is an outcome-based concept. And the outcome is, do you want to, we want to be healthy. That's where we want to be. You want to feel good. You want to look good. That is the purpose. And so we know that any kind of deviation from perfection, if minor, has absolutely no impact on anything. Okay. All right. I think I said enough.
Great.
I'll just keep saying it all. I'll just keep saying the same thing again for the next hour. All right, go ahead.
I'm not trying to live to 240. I'm trying to live just a couple of days longer than Dr. Goldhammer. I spoke to him about this the other day so that I could give his eulogy and say, I told you so.
Oh, that's so good, AJ. I love it. Yeah. That's great.
All right. So what you just said, Jenny commented live that when she eats the suboptimal food, it causes her to go into a downward spiral.
Mm-hmm. Well, fair enough. That doesn't mean that you can't pull out of the downward spiral at some point. And it's also, if you're that susceptible, then that means that you have increasing opportunities in the future to be alert for the things that cause you to step out of line. Okay, so it's a learning process. This is not a disaster. This is not a crisis. You know, the notion that this is some kind of a crisis and a disaster, the hyper-conscientious nutcases completely lose all perspective. You have not been born on the streets of Somalia. Okay, you don't live under some incredible dictatorship in Venezuela where everybody's starving. You're not a 19-year-old young man storming the beaches of Normandy under withering German fire. Okay, you're a person that may get in trouble for a couple, 3 months and gain 3 pounds because you veered off of a perfection diet, and you're going to have to suck it up and get back on it. So what? Okay, this is not a tragedy. This is if that happens to you, no problem. Lots of people make mistakes and have troubles and struggle. Most people that ever get out of any big problem associated with the pleasure trap don't get out of it and stay out. They wander in and they wander out and they wander in and they wander out. So ask anybody that has ever beat cigarettes. They tried 100 times to stop smoking. The average person 8 times goes through the entire process of getting through an extinction burst, getting into extinction, and then winding up not smoking and having very low cravings for months or years. And then they relapse. And so they usually go through it 8 times they go through the trap. Okay? So the fact that you may wander in and out of the pleasure trap with respect to diet from time to time is no tragedy at all. This isn't going to cause you any significant damage to your body or your mind or anything else. It's just telling you, there it is. There's the trap. You did it again. Okay? It's a little bit like there's a place in Santa Rosa on the way to my favorite restaurant, which is East West Cafe. There's a place where it doesn't make any sense the way the road is kind of set up, that it would appear that you would be able to take a right-hand turn on a red light. And so I rolled up there about 4 years ago on my way to East West, and I took a right-hand turn, and a cop pulls me over. I'm like, what? He says, you can't take a right turn on that red light. I'm like, really? He says, yeah, there's a sign over there. I'm like, what do you know? Like, that doesn't hardly make any sense that I can't take a right-hand turn there. He goes, well, that's it. $380. It's like, geez. Okay. Well, a couple more times since then, I've rolled through that same thing and did the same thing. And when I've done it, I'm like, oh, God. Good thing there wasn't a cop there, because I just made the same mistake again. And hopefully I won't make one again that cost me $380. But it wouldn't surprise me if I did. So it shouldn't surprise us that the pleasure trap will get us from time to time. And if you're a person that it puts you into a spiral for a while, so that it does. This is not a tragedy. That's what Chef AJ is here for. Okay? It's exactly that process. That's precisely why True North and the McDougall program and all these educational processes are here. They're here because you're human. And you're going to, and these forces, the pleasure trap is an unbelievably underestimated force. And people, when they fall prey to it, they make interesting mistakes of judgment. Like there's something wrong with them. What's wrong with them? Tell me about the secret about how it is that they can get around it. There is no secret. And there is nothing wrong with you. You know, there's a vast misunderstanding of human psychology and its struggles that has its roots in the major dominant themes of psychology in the 20th century. And the two dominant themes were psychoanalysis that came out of Freud and Vienna and continues to be a major force in clinical psychology today, even though the fundamentals of it all, him and Carl Jung and Adler, Anna Freud, even though their thinking has wound up being worthless scientifically and is not added up to anything defensible in the science of psychology, it remains a major force in thinking about psychology today, and it's involved with some of it what we're talking about today. Also, a twin set of misassumptions or mistaken assumptions comes out of hardcore science and psychology that was founded in the early 20th century around learning theory, of which there are many things that are true, but we still wind up with false assumptions. And this is what I call blank slate nirvana. The notion from both psychoanalysis and behaviorism and learning theory in conventional psychology is the notion that if things were done right in your youth and in your early childhood and your youth and in your life, everything would be perfect. Everything would be perfect. You wouldn't have problems in your relationship that you have. You wouldn't have problems with your personality and other people that you have. You wouldn't have cravings for things that you shouldn't be craving. You wouldn't have addictive processes. You wouldn't wash your hands 40 times a day with your OCD tendencies. You wouldn't have anger issues that boil up out of you. You wouldn't have embarrassment about your body and inhibitions about your sexuality. You wouldn't have any of these things if only things had been done better by other people in their treatment of you and your development. Okay? This is blank slate nirvana. This is the notion that you came into the world as a blank slate, and it turns out that if only things were done properly, you would have everything would be smooth and easy without any challenges or difficulties today, because you would be the perfect thing that you had the possibility to be. This is totally bogus. And it's bogus at its root, okay? And the psychodynamic version is bogus. But we're going to go back and somehow unwind the errors that were made in the past that caused you to be the flawed human that you are today. And that's the only way we're going to get to the other side of this and get back to nirvana. And the behavioristic notion is the same. That somehow you learn things incorrectly and you had bad role models and all this sort of stuff. This is crap, okay? The truth of the matter is that we're all a conglomeration of all kinds of different impulses that are organized in a different way. Some of us are really interested in things that look like gambling. Some of us are really interested in things that look like pornography. Some of us are really interested in things that look like chocolate cheesecake. Some of us are really interested in all kinds of wacky stuff. We're all just these different montages of genes and all kinds of different behavioral impulses. And those behavioral impulses we're going to run into competitive and opportunistic and temptation problems all over the place. That's how it really is, okay? So there's no reason for us to be distraught over the fact that you struggle with cigarettes, with food, with your weight, with your relationships, et cetera, et cetera. This isn't because something wrong happened to you. It's because there's conflicts of interest and temptations and all kinds of stuff all over the chessboard. Now, there's more problems in that way today than there's ever been. Why? Because of a thing called the pleasure trap. Because the modern world has now distilled genius of human beings that have figured out how to put things together and stimuli together in such a way that it entices and hyperstimulates the reward pathways of the mind. Okay, so that's what has happened. So you are battling not only your own natural impulsivity and curiosity that can always get you into trouble if you're a creature of any kind, i.e., there's a reason we say curiosity killed the cat. Okay, because the desire for more knowledge and curiosity to find out what's over there has risks associated with it. Okay, so the impulses of people to try to do different things in a myriad of ways there's cost and benefit associated with it. Now, the pleasure trap sets up a possibility that we could wind up in trouble, but it's not because there's some weakness of our own, and we're not going to find the roots of that weakness by looking back in our history and seeing when we were flawed and damaged, because you weren't flawed and damaged. Okay, you're just another creature out here with some impulses that were designed in there to try to help you navigate life. And sometimes those impulses are going to guide you well, and sometimes they're going to guide you poorly. Sometimes you're going to push back on the bully because you got a little testosterone in there and you're like, enough already. And it's going to turn out that bully is big trouble and you're dead. Okay, that happens. Okay, but a bunch of the time when you push back at the bully, people make a profit. I mean, let's not say dead, although we could. You wind up with a broken nose. Like, oops, that's a mistake. That's a particular bully I won't push back on. But was the impulse bad? No, it was a gamble. So let's not worry about the fact that, that there's temptations out there and pleasure traps out there that it could get you. It's like, let's not catastrophize over that. Yes, it may. Okay, so nothing wrong with you that it did it. And so then if it does, now I'm in trouble for 4 months. So you're in trouble for 4 months. That's what we're here for. We're here as a part of a comprehensive educational support system to try to help those that are smart enough and diligent enough and motivated enough to understand that it's worth trying to battle the temptations of the modern age in certain arenas. Okay, so that's what we're here for. And please, no shame if you have struggled. Are you kidding me? It's a badge of honor if you're still here listening and trying to figure it out, and that you're trying to figure out where it is that you're susceptible and when you get into trouble and trying to learn more. But please don't expect yourself or catastrophize over the fact that you can't do better or haven't done better, or that you've done well and then made mistakes. No problem at all. That's like a rookie basketball player in the NBA just all upset because they made some bad plays in a game. Of course you're going to make bad plays in this game. No problem. That's part of the learning process.
Well, Dr. Lisle, this is getting a lot of people engaged in conversation about this. So Allison says, the problem is that we think that we should be able to do it because Chef AJ does it. She is the gold standard. So would it be helpful if I just ate a cheeseburger once in a while?
You don't try to make mistakes and put yourself into trouble. But when you do, we don't catastrophize over it. The fact that there's some individuals that are outstanding and go to a great deal of effort to do things super well, that's inspiring, but it shouldn't be intimidating. There's people that will work harder at you at all kinds of things. There's people, my next door neighbors, I got neighbors all over my cul-de-sac here. Its front yards look better than mine. They just do. Okay, and I've got my next door neighbor's very fastidious over here to the north of me. He's out there all the time, making sure it's all clean and tidy. And my yard is a little bit, I'm 30% hippie. I just assume let it all grow out and not trim it into a box. Okay, so people are going to make differential investments. AJ and Alan have made very large investments in attempting to control their environments to the point where they can maintain extremely steady behavior. Good for them. Okay, it's intellectually fascinating to observe that if you do that, It's not that hard. If you work hard enough at your environment, then you're not tormented by the impulses that come when we're in an environment that's more tempting. Okay, so that's why Alan, sits right down at True North and has the cooks there feed him a nice diversity of healthy food that's always available. It's always under his hands, and therefore he never does anything else. AJ is, fastidious at her own house. Some relative that wants to come in there and have some junk, she doesn't know. Feels no obligation to entertain those individuals. It's like, forget it. My way or the highway, which is exactly how it is at True North. Nobody comes into True North to talk to Goldhammer about some business deal and say, listen, I just want to talk to you, but I want to come in and, just have my burger while we talk over the new lab, contract that we're going to have with you. It's like, no, you're not. That isn't what's going to happen. Don't bring it. Okay, so this is a health facility and this is how it goes down. No, you're not. There is no coffee here. Oh, what am I going to do? I don't care. Get yourself drugged up before you come, but you're not bringing it on the grounds. Okay, so there's individuals that have gone to considerable effort to protect their environments, and as a result of having done so, they can do this well and easily and repetitively. It's interesting. It's actually interesting how easy it gets once you have gone to that trouble. The fact that many of us won't go to that trouble because we've got relationships that, if we're going to maintain them in the way that we have them, we're going to have some compromises, and those compromises are going to lead to temptations. The person that lives in the place where she works and everybody munches, it's like, okay, what could we do about this? Are we trapped? Are we victims of the environment? Is there nothing that we can do? Of course we can do something about it. Okay, we can find another job where they don't have that behavior, where that's not happening out on the factory floor or the office floor, because that's not how it works there. You're like, oh, but that would be such a problem. So of course it would be a problem. Of course it's a hassle. I'm not telling you to quit your job and change it. I'm just telling you that you could. Okay, and if you could, what would happen? We would have less temptation. No problem. So it's a matter of, it's instructive and interesting to watch the success of people that have gone to great lengths to organize their environments in a way that are conducive to healthy living. It's good. It's good to see it. It's a reminder when we struggle and we do a post-game analysis of where we have not done so well and we've gotten into trouble, like what gave rise to that? And what gave rise to that was the fact that we had an environment that tempted us into this extraordinary force called the pleasure trap. This person was right. That you look at Chef AJ and Alan and say, well, I ought to be able to do it. Yeah, you ought to be able to do it, and you would do it if we put you in a Stone Age environment where all there was healthy food. And in fact, if they had Snickers bars across the river at a little kiosk, but in that river, it was full of alligators that had killed 16 children of the village in the last 4 years. Even if the Snickers bars were over there, you wouldn't swim that river. Okay? So the issue is, do we make the environment difficult enough for you to do the self-indulgent behavior? If we do, you won't do it. If we make it easy, you will. The modern environment makes self-indulgence as easy as it can possibly make it. Okay? So it is little wonder that we struggle. So give yourself a break and realize that you can't expect to have Chef AJ and Alan behavior if you don't have an environment that Chef AJ and Alan have built. Okay, so that you keep your eye on the ball. Let's not look internally to your own weakness. Let's look at your life circumstances and the choices that would need to be made to improve it.
Amen. Thank you for that, because you really just talked about how important the environment really is. That it's not that Alan and I are necessarily extraordinary. Of course, he would say he is, but our environments are. So thank you. So again, on this topic, people are saying, like Heather said, but what if when you fail, you have severe consequences, like not 3 pounds in 3 months, but 90 pounds. My last relapse was not a minor slip that required a small correction. It did seem tragic to me, and other people like Lisa are posting that, her last relapse was 30 pounds. So,
There you go. Well, then learn. Okay. If you're and nobody gained 90 pounds in 3 months, so come on. If there's a 90-pound process, remember that there was 1,000 opportunities to turn it around that you declined. Okay, so 90 pounds is a phenomenal amount of bad decisions. It's an incredible amount of bad decisions to have that happen. Now, how do we make bad decisions? We make bad decisions because we have a bad decision-making strategy. That's the only way we can make that many bad decisions. Well, what is the bad decision-making strategy? The bad decision-making strategy is to look for a miracle of inspiration within ourselves and somehow try to find out what the flaw is within us that is causing the problem. If we do that, we will continue to be drowned in the temptation of the pleasure trap, and as we continue to search for the miracle that's going to get us out of it. That won't happen. The only thing that's going to get you out of it is to change your environment. So that person that had a 90-pound relapse, you needed to change your environment. So if we didn't want to do that, and you couldn't actively change the environment yourself, you get on a plane and you get to True North, or you get to Fasting Escape, or you get to a seminar, and you get somewhere where you get surrounded by a social, psychological, and experiential process that shocks you back into understanding how valuable and pleasant and worthwhile this whole thing is. And then you begin again. And what do? We go home and clean out the refrigerator. Okay, we get things set up. We get healthy food, in the place. That's how we do it. So it's not a mysterious psychodynamic process by somehow, there's going to be a place where we finally get to internally. No, we have to get there mechanically. This is what we have to do. It's all about getting control of your environment in such a way that when you run the cost-benefit analysis unconsciously on your next behavioral option, the healthy food option needs to be winning relative to a self-indulgent option. That's the only way you gain 90 pounds back, is if we change the environment. Okay? We suddenly made the indulgent decision easier, and we made the good decision harder. And if we do that, then we get into the trap, and we stay in it until we decide to change the environment. All right.
Wow, thanks. Yeah, I had one relapse in September of 2012, and I made a vow that if that ever happened again, I would go to True North. And I don't want to go there because I'm too cheap, So it's one thing to go there when I'm speaking. But so Elizabeth says, is there really something called PECS, post-event collapse syndrome? This is when someone has a difficult food-related event, but eats off her plan the day following the stressful event. Is there really such a thing?
It's the first time I've ever heard of such a thing. There's again, it sounds like some mysterious dynamic, process that we're making up. We're making up a bunch of interesting stories here. Let's keep something in mind. The cost-benefit analytic engine that is your mind is looking to get the most calories for the least effort possible. It's constantly coming up with a solution, but the solution is the richest food that is available in its environment. It's constantly coming up with that as the answer to that problem. That's what it's supposed to do. So this isn't mysterious. This isn't naughty. This isn't weak. This is the decision that every single animal will make if we put their healthy chow on the right side of the cage and we put McDonald's food on the left. They will always go to the McDonald's food and they will eat it exclusively. And if we finally pull the McDonald's food out of the cage, they will water fast for 14 days before they start eating the healthy chow on the right side of the cage. Okay, so this is your biology. I likened it at one webinar that we did a couple years ago, AJ, to that your good intentions for living healthfully are essentially like a submarine that is 2 miles under the ocean, and it is under incredible pressure. Incredible pressure. The entire cost benefit analytic engine is scanning around looking for the best deal, just like every animal in nature. This is the equivalent of the jaguar looking at a bunch of gazelle and saying, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go stalk the one that looks the healthiest and the strongest and the fastest. It's like, why would you ever do that? The answer is it would never do that. It would always go for the weak one and the slow one, or one that's limping. It's the right thing to do. And so Cinnabon and ice cream and soy hot dogs and a cheeseburger are limping. They are easy. They are rich targets. It's the right way to do it. So your instincts are pushing you like pressure of the water on the submarine. They are trying, the water's trying to get inside that submarine. If there's the slightest crack, if one of those rivets, it wasn't quite square and it wasn't quite battened down out of the 2,000 rivets in there, if one of those rivets is not quite flush at 90 degrees, it's just slightly, the machine tool didn't quite get it. And so the seal on that sheet metal isn't quite perfect. Then that the tremendous 2,000 atmospheres of pressure that is on that thing, that's where it's going to leak. Where the water's trying to get in, and it's going to find your weakness. And so that's what you're dealing with. So this is, understand that the weaknesses are, of course, everywhere. And what are you going to do? You're going to have to make sure that the rivets are tight. That's what's going to happen. Now, there's a difference between the rivets being so loose, that it all comes apart and you drown. What we want to do is notice when the rivets are loose. This doesn't happen all at once. Like, oh, we got a little drip inside this thing. Time to get away from the pressure, okay? Better get up to the surface before we all die in this submarine. So that thing starts leaking, you start getting out of pressure. Where do you get out of pressure? Fasting escape at Nathan Gertzfeld's. Just go cruise in there. You're out of pressure now. You're out away from your normal environment, and where you are is you're in a place that looks great, smells great, peaceful, beautiful, healthy food. Go upstairs, do a 3-day water fast, come down, smell the beautiful, healthy juice that's ready for you. It's like, wow, you just took your nervous system out of pressure. You don't have any problems now. That's how we do it. So remember, the environment is putting a lot of pressure on you, and your job when you're in trouble and you're leaking oil, the thing to do is to get out of the pressure. That's what you need to do.
Thank you. I don't know if this is a question you'd be able to answer, Dr. Lisle, but Amy wants to know how you feel about CBD oil topically or orally for chronic pain.
Yes, unfortunately, I don't know much about this. And I think that we're going to find that, as with all these sorts of things, analgesics of various kinds are, they have cost-benefit analysis with them that comes with them. So there's no way that I'm going to go to the dentist and have my tooth drilled and not have Novocaine. It's like, I'm not that pure, and neither is Alan, or there's people that might be, for God's sakes. So if you're in some nasty pain, and it turns out that CBD oil does better for you than some other pain reliever that is, quote, I don't know, some pharmaceutical that's been deemed safe by the FDA. The truth is, all of these things nothing is healing. What's in fact happening is that we are disturbing neurotransmitter activity in order to have a better experience in life. So we may be doing something else. So we may take, I don't know, echinacea, chondroitin, and these things. People say, "Oh my God, my inflammation's down. I feel so much better." Yeah, it had a problem, it compromised the immune system, so your inflammatory response was less, and you feel better. But the truth of the matter is that drug or whatever the heck it was actually is having wide-ranging effects, and the cost benefit may not be positive for your life. So the CBD oil is obviously my life has been in and around a lot of people with long hair and beads, because if you're in the natural foods world and you're in California, that's who you're going to be. You can't stop it. As much of a square as I am, I've rubbed shoulders with plenty of people that play with crystals and incense and CBD oil, and so and there's often a undertow of moral superiority with respect to something natural that came from a plant, and therefore it should be okay. It's like, yeah, well, pharmaceuticals come from plants. All kinds of things come from plants, and so when you have something that can make a major impact on the nervous system, that makes you feel much better through some biochemical neurological process, my first move is to say, careful. Is there a better way? Is there a way to heal the underlying process that is driving the fact that you've got a problem in the first place? Is there something that you can do for your health that would help restore the integrity of the body so that you don't have the pain? If the answer is no, if there's nothing known to modern medicine or to alternative medicine, fasting, diet, exercise, sleep, chiropractic and osteopathic manipulation and physical therapy, if there's nothing that modern medicine can do that they know how to correct a problem and facilitate healing, if you are in fact stuck with a problem that there is no solution to fix it, then indeed, then we have to look at the kind of daunting problem of using some agent that winds up disturbing the way the body works in order to cause damage in one way, but hopefully profit more in another. And so that's how I look at CBD oil. So look at it through those glasses, not through the glasses of, oh, it's a natural thing, and I know it's kind of naughty because it's kind of like pot. And so, but pot's kind of herb, and so it's probably fine, and it's probably healthy, and God knows somebody says it's healthy, and because it's a plant, and so isn't it really okay? It's like, no, it's not okay. It's a pharmaceutical agent that is going to have costs associated with it, including neurotransmitter habituation to it, undoubtedly. So again, it may be a useful thing for somebody's life, just as Xanax is. Okay, and I'll tell people, if you're in hell behind a super disturbing event that just took place and you're in trouble and you can't sleep, is there a time and place for Xanax? Yeah. Once in a lifetime for one night. Okay. Other than that, no. Or maybe 6 times in a lifetime. But the point is that it's not something we would use habitually. And CBD oil or any other analgesic process at all, if it's methotrexate for an autoimmune condition, is that the right solution? Answer: it may be the only solution you have for an emergency, and it may be the only solution that the world has. But I would turn over, my first consideration would be, wait a minute, is there anything that we can do to heal the underlying health or underlying, I look at it as integrity. In other words, the integration of the way the system is built has been disturbed. Is there any possible way for the person to heal in a way that we get rid of the underlying problem? That's what I call 3-step medicine. 2-step medicine is we identify the problem and we figure out how to get rid of the unpleasant part. And so whether it's CBD oil or anything else, watch out for a shortcut solution that is not an optimal solution.
Terrific. Well, would you have time for one more question, Dr. Lisle, or would you like to call it a day?
No, one more is good.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. So this is from Lori, and Lori understands your take on emotional eating very well. She's watched all, I believe, 3 videos we did on that. But she says, if you still feel that you're some like because of stress or emotional reasons, and stress depletes glucose, is it a good idea to just maybe eat some starch or something to try to quell that emotional hunger if you feel that that's what you're doing?
Yeah, actually, your audio went a little sideways on me for a second, so go ahead and read the whole thing to me again, AJ.
Right. So Lori says that she understands your take on emotional eating from watching the previous interviews we did. And her question is, if you feel that you still are somebody that maybe eats because of stress or emotional reasons, and she feels that stress depletes glucose, is it still a good idea maybe to eat some starch, emotional hunger?
I don't know why she thinks that stress depletes glucose. That makes no sense. So we've got a false assumption right there. So I don't. So I'm not so sure she quite understands my take on emotional eating. So I will. Let's back up and let's understand what it is that I believe about emotional eating and what my comments are. My comments are that if you think that you have deep-seated emotional problems that's driving you to eat shit, that's not true. That's my take on emotional eating. Take on emotional eating is this is not as a result of flaws in your psychology because we don't have blank slate nirvana. Okay, that your parents or your developmental history, they are not responsible for you having the struggles that you have with the pleasure trap. Struggles you have with the pleasure trap have nothing to do with it. You're a flawed human psychologically. None. Okay? So people think that they have troubles with eating and they have emotional eating. This is now, we're taking a page out of Aristotle's book. Let's make sure we define our terms. Okay? So there could be multiple definitions of emotional eating. One very important key definition is the reason why people eat things that they eat and make poor choices is because they have painful emotions that are reverberating from their deeply flawed blank slate nirvana of their life that lead them to habitually wind up eating shit. No, that is not true. That is not what's going on. What's going on is that you're a typical human being, just as a typical member of a typical species. That if we have rich food around, you will be highly motivated. And when we say motivated, you'll have feelings. You'll have feelings that say, oh, I want that. Okay? That's what a male shark, when it sees a female shark, it says, wow, I want that. I want to have sex with it. Okay? And it has a feeling, it has motives, it has desires, lust. Okay? The same thing is true with animals with their food. They lust after it. They revel in it. They enjoy it. They have feelings. Okay? They have emotions about it. They are eating emotionally. Every damn animal eats emotionally, including a human. Okay? So why do we have emotional eating of shit? We have emotional eating of shit because it's super normal banging those centers of the brain harder. Of course you eat for emotional reasons. You don't really eat for any other reasons. You have feelings and lust and drive and excitement associated with eating. That's how eating works. Okay? You're like, well, do you have sex for emotional reasons? Well, I certainly hope so. Okay? So this is, of course, that's how it works. No, it's that the reason I eat crap is because I have these emotional problems. No, it's not. Okay? You eat crap just like all kinds of people without any significant emotional problems at all eat crap. Why? Because they lust after it and they love it and they like it because it's super rewarding. And if they were to make a healthy choice, the healthy choice is muted by comparison. Okay, no orgasm. Right, so it's like, well, so this is how to look at this. Okay, so now the question is, okay, well, sometimes I go through emotional events and I find myself eating crap as a result. Okay, So what, you rewarded yourself to get through something? So you began to seek something that was entertaining and pleasant at the end? Of course, that doesn't surprise me any. That's not the main reason for habitual problems. Okay? The main reason for habitual problems is you're being constantly lured by the excitement and lusty satisfaction of eating the richest food in the environment. So if you have it in the environment, that's going to get you. Let's not worry about the fact that life has emotional turbulence in it. And that turbulence, you will sometimes find yourself wanting to reward yourself. You'll sometimes find yourself wanting to soothe yourself a little bit with a chocolate bar as a result of you, I don't know, having your boss snarl at you. So why did you do that? Okay, well, you know what? I just want to feel a little better for a few minutes, so I go have a chocolate bar. This is, if that exists, that's no surprise. But that's not the reason why people are habitually having major problems with their food choices. They're having major problems with their food choices also not from emotional problems bubbling up that are deep and historic. That's not what the reason is. The reason is that this is that processed modern supernormal stimuli food. It is a cheap win for a nervous system. It's always looking for a shortcut and a win. And so if we make it available and make it easy, it will outcompete a healthier choice. Change your environment, control your environment as best you can, and we cannot possibly stop the fact that you will have emotional perturbations that if we put you in circumstances where you can reach for supernormal stimuli for either a little extra excitement or to soothe yourself a little bit behind a recent loss, whether you're celebrating or medicating, you're going to be pulled towards rich food. So the solution isn't to catastrophize over that. The solution is to get back to square one and realize the most important thing you do is to impose excellence in your environment. That's what we do.
Well, I couldn't have said it better myself. On that note, thank you so much, Dr. Lisle, and thank all of you for watching. And thank you for coming on once a month and talking to everyone. We really appreciate it, Dr. Lisle. And happy holidays to you and to everyone.
Happy holidays to everybody.
Okay, bye.